can say whatever you like about Islam or the Prophet in the name of free speech, but when other communities and other religions are hurt, suddenly you can't do it. Suddenly there are limits, and that applies to the Danish... One last point, David. The Danish cartoons, which started this off in 2006, they published those cartoons of the Prophet. Did you know that 3 years earlier they were given cartoons mocking Jesus and the resurrection, and the editor said, I won't publish them because they'll provoke an outrage. But outraging Muslims, that's fine. But he wouldn't do it with Jesus. All I'm saying is, let's be consistent one way or the other.
You've been going on a very long time.
I'm sure
Did you look at the last Christmas private eye? For mocking Jesus, for mocking Mary, for doing it brilliantly, crudely, coarsely, cleverly. The idea...
Well, the private eye is not the equivalent, David, as you know, of Charlie Hebdo.
Sorry, but you said that there's discrimination against Muslims. This seems to me...
I'm saying... hang on a second. I'm saying people use free speech as a cover for saying...
Let's just go back to the question. David Starkey.
I'm just saying it's rubbish.
David Starkey, the question that Hamid...
It's not rubbish. I give you a factual example. So
just
by
wait.
definition, not rubbish.
Hamid Bukhari said, free speech is good, but where do you draw the line before it becomes harmful and offensive? What's your answer to his question?
You draw it, as it were, as narrowly as possible. Free speech is the foundation of and freedom of thought is the foundation of what we are. It is why, in the last 400 or 500 years, this tiny little speck of earth called Europe has transformed the world, rethought humanity. And the lack of it, I'm afraid, is why Islam is now primitive and backward after having been glorious. The early days of Islam, when Islam had conquered most of the Roman Empire, when it was dealing with people with the inheritance of Greece, with the inheritance of the Chaldees, with the inheritance of India, Islam was the centre of the intellectual universe because it was open, it was diverse, it was welcoming, it accepted challenge. The moment Islam turned on itself, forgot freedom of thought and freedom of speech, it is dying. Nothing has been written in Arabic that matters for at least the last 5 centuries.
But saving the history lesson for a moment.
No, because the history lesson...
The question...
I said draw the limits as narrowly as possible.
All right, well, where would you draw them?
As narrowly as possible.
But that's easy to say. What do you mean by it?
Well, I think the word narrow has got a very clear limit.
Well, should Charlie Hebdo have published the cartoon in the way they did?
Of course. Religion has got no privilege whatever. We heard the Pope today saying that religion is specially privileged. This is nonsense. Why? The idea that because you feel strongly about something means that nobody must challenge you is an absurdity. People feel very strongly about stupid things, and they hate being challenged. We've heard that already. Now, again, I'm going to step right out of line here. I'm sure we will hear from Ahmed. In France, there are very strict rules, as there are in most of continental Europe, that you cannot say that the Holocaust did not happen, called Holocaust denial. I would repeal that law completely. It is totally unnecessary. We had a wonderful example. We had a wonderful example of a man called David Irving, who was a great Holocaust denier. He was sent to jail in Austria. That made him a martyr. When he sued a publisher who had published a book which said that he was a liar and a fool, he was taken to pieces by freedom of speech, by my colleague Richard Evans, who shredded him in a way that no law could. Freedom of speech is us.
I think there's a bit of a phony argument going on between the two of you, actually. I have to say, I agree with everything that Mehdi said, and I think he said it beautifully and brilliantly, and I'm delighted everybody applauded. No, he didn't lie.
I lied.
You lied. You were on record.
Hang on a minute, you've spoken for a long time. Can someone else speak?
Oh,
sorry,
isn't that free speech, allowing somebody else to have a point of view?
You were on record when you were not speaking to an audience like... No, I am going to say it.
Please do.
You were on record as saying to an audience of Muslims that Kufirs are cattle and animals.
We're wrong.
No.
Sorry, I
All
thought
right,
I
David.
No,
All right,
he
David.
said
All right,
that.
David,
In other words,
David,
he's been doubly
given you
speaking.
can't get my name right, my name is Mehdi, not Ahmed, I would question your selective quotation of something I said a decade ago.
It's not
All right, David, leave it for a moment.
No.
David, leave it, please. You're not the only person on this panel, as you well know.
And also, no, David, sorry, I'm not going to take lessons from a man who blamed the London riots on black culture and blames sex crimes on Pakistani culture and now blames terrorism on Islam. I'm not going to take lessons in offence or politeness. You're basically Katie Hopkins with a PhD. You just troll for a living.
I take it back, actually, because I was